Strolling around some tree, feeling all that is true. This is rocket sun. Jesus loves you more than you know. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, Red Spotters, to another After Dark series. I'm Alexis, and this is Peter. And yeah, he's on his phone. Yeah, you know what? Let us all be on our phones while we're talking, right? All you be on my phone while doing this intro. We just got out of a movie called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Yes.
And it was directed.
Once Upon a Time.
Written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. Small-time director. This is only his 9th movie, you can believe that. He's known for the films Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, and Pulp Fiction, among many others. Reservoir Dogs, some people's favorite movies of all time. And this film starred Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. It's really a who's who of Hollywood A-listers in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And this film is about things.
I don't know what it's about.
Good. I was kind of.
Where are you?
I was kind of like, what do I say? Literally a few seconds ago, I was thinking, what the fuck are you going to say about what this was about?
I don't know.
I spent the entire time trying to figure out what this movie was about. Maybe not. I don't mean that as a negative right now. Although I will say. We will get into spoilers later on.
Yeah.
But for my money, I was thoroughly entertained.
Yeah. I will say real quick.
Yeah.
I don't think Quentin Tarantino has ever made a film about anything.
That's a good point.
Like, ever.
That's a good point.
All his films, if there's any one takeaway you could take away from any of his films, revenge. But, like, that's it. Like, for the most part, his films aren't about
murder.
They're really not about anything, like, overtly, I feel.
Yeah.
I just get that out of the way.
Yeah, and you know what? Thank you for reminding me about that, because now and also one of the things that I picked up on that I was reminded of, I think, halfway through the film. This is very much a Tarantino film in terms of definitely how it's paced. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I love, especially when, you know, Tarantino, like, lets things sit and goes through certain things here and there. So
I'd say this is a very different Tarantino film. Until the third act, he kept it bottled in for so long, and then he
don't give it away. Don't give it away. Because it's a very Tarantino film in terms of, I think, the production value, how it's shot, the cinematography, the dialogue, and definitely in terms of the pacing. However, where I did wonder halfway through the movie is there were a lot of things about this movie that if you were just watching the first 2 acts especially, you wouldn't, I think, tell that it was strictly a Tarantino, because he brings a certain flair, shall we say. He brings a certain style in terms of, you know, the actions that characters do that is very clearly absent from this.
I think it might be his slowest film. There are so many shots of people just walking to a car, getting in a car.
You're getting in a car and driving, and then a song blaring over it while they're driving up and down the road. Like, I want to say though, it did kind of drive me nuts a little bit.
I think a large part of Quentin Tarantino making this film is he just wanted to, like, be in Hollywood 1969. Yeah. So it's like a fantasy for him. So he literally just recreated it.
Right.
Put the experience.
Don't get me wrong. There were
there.
Beautiful shots, shots. But I did think to myself, like, I think 3/4 into the movie, how many more shots do we need of somebody getting in a car and driving away with a song blaring over it?
Let me put it this way, and this isn't a spoiler, really, at all. There's an entire scene where someone drives to a place, walks to a store, talks to someone, walks across the street, talks to the people at this movie theater, goes inside, watches the movie, comes back outside, and goes home.
Yeah.
And you see, like, a lot of it. Obviously not the whole film. But...
I want to be fair, most of his films are slow. Especially the later ones, I felt. Like, Hateful Eight and Django Unchained, I think, had slow, but I'm not saying that they're, like, slow in a negative connotation.
No, but here's the difference. Usually, his other films that are slow, they're slow, but there's a dynamic going on to something.
Right.
Or there's, like, a really interesting dialogue conversation going on. This is the first film where it's just slow. It's like
there's a series of situations and actions that happen, kind of like what you just pointed out, and keep happening. And it's like holding on to you, and you're wondering, where is this going? What is happening? Like,
what is the point?
Right. And there is, I think, at the very end, you see where it's going, maybe?
We'll discuss it, but...
It led to something, shall we say. It led to a climax in the movie.
Oh, I want to talk about it so
I know, we will, and we'll get
very quickly, although I don't even think we need to say this. Like you said, it's shot beautifully, all the performances are awesome.
Yeah.
Like all of this. But, like, it's... Most of the film, and I didn't think they were going to do this, is literally just, like, one day.
Yeah,
and it feels like it.
Right. Yeah, I did feel its length. I'll say that.
And overall, you kind of get the point, but there's so much things that happen that are just kind of like...
Well, what was the word?
Mundane?
Mundane?
Yeah, and I think maybe that's probably the point.
Exactly. So, like, out of the ordinary, just like...
And as much as I'm saying this, I was entertained throughout the entire film.
I agree with you. Like, they could come across as negatives, and in a lot of movies they would, but not in this case, I feel. I mean, I was entertained throughout the whole film. I wasn't at any point bored. I was wondering, okay, Quentin, where are you going with this? Still wondering that
at first I was like, okay, this is different from him.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking about... Bad Times
at the El Royale,
where like this is like a more mature Quentin Tarantino,
because we compared that directly to The Hateful Eight, I think. Right?
Yeah, and then for the vast majority of this film, it was kind of like that.
Yeah, I got that.
But with Bad Times at the El Royale, it's like, okay, there's a mystery.
Yeah,
there's this, there's that, there's something to keep you. And with this, it's just the characters.
Yeah,
It's just the characters. Which isn't a bad thing. Because I did like the characters. I did love the friendship between the two main characters.
In a least spoilery way, can you try to give people a sense of the dynamic between Brad Pitt and Leo and the other characters that we have here, to kind of come close to giving a kind of a plot about this movie?
This movie is about Rick fucking Dalton, okay? Played by
Leo
DiCaprio. Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, and his stuntman, Brad Pitt.
Cliff, I think his name.
Cliff.
Yeah.
Yes, Cliff. And it's basically like Rick Dalton's reaching that point in his career where he's feeling like kind of like a has-been. He used to do movies, now he's doing TV
in the 60s. And that, by the way, that's the graveyard
was a death
shit.
Kill. Yeah. So, you know, he's struggling with that. And Cliff is Cliff. Like,
he's doing his own thing.
He's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
He's pretty chill.
Remarkably.
And there's some fucked up hippies involved. And then, and then Sharon Tate lives next door. And she sometimes goes out to parties, and then sometimes...
Portrayed by Margot Robbie in this movie.
Yeah, and, I think it was just Sharon Tate. And then she sometimes walks to a store, and then sometimes walks down the street and drives somewhere.
A lot of feet.
Oh my god. I give this movie a feet out of 10. Holy shit. Like, for the longest time, like, Quentin Tarantino's foot fetish is very well known.
Okay, yeah.
But holy shit. There are entire shots where the foot is literally, like, in the center.
Right.
Like, your eye line looks directly at the feet.
Well, there's points where it's like the feet it's like being shoved in your face almost.
Yes. There were so many, like, it really, because there are in his other films, you kind of notice it. Like, I know there's like a scene in Kill Bill, and, what was the other one?
Kill Bill 2?
No. I know you don't know it. It's from the Grindhouse one. Shit. I can't remember the name. Death Proof. I remembered it. Starring Kurt Russell as a stuntman.
Who is also in this movie.
Stuntman.
As
Mike,
the narrator, I believe, right?
Yeah.
That was Kurt Russell.
He does weird shit all the time. Quentin Tarantino.
Right, that came out of nowhere also, but yeah.
But, yeah, that's as close as I'm going to get as to, like, a plot, I feel.
No, I think that's as close as the movie gets to a plot, maybe, in a way. Interestingly enough, I did get a lot of Bad Times at El Royale vibes, especially in terms of the group that he made. I got a little bit of a Bad Times at El Royale vibes in terms of...
Oh, it's the time period, too.
That's, yeah. There were also some reused songs from that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of crossover.
I mean, every film about Vietnam has the same songs. Like, when you talk about a certain, like, historical times, people are going to use certain songs. Plus, this film used every song from that time period, I think.
No, literally. Like, it's interesting. At some points, I thought to myself, wow, Quentin, you're really running the gamut here of, like, 60s songs. I don't bring this up to, like, you know, say that it was bad in terms of how we use it at all, because it was great. But it's like, this movie almost used as many songs as kind of Suicide Squad. Now, Suicide Squad obviously was a different situation altogether.
I honestly think he wrote this film because, more than anything, he just wanted to drive around 1960s Hollywood and just soak everything in.
And you see, and look,
I like that. That's what it feels like.
And one of the things that Quentin does so great in all of his films, and you soak in the atmosphere of it, and it's definitely felt throughout here. Like, you never for one second do not believe you're not in that era. And I also love when we transition into the actual, like, Hollywood acting that's going on here. Just like quick thoughts as far as the standouts for me, and I think it's very clear who the standouts are. Like, Leo and Brad are honestly as great as they ever have been.
Yeah.
They're outstanding in this movie.
I think Leo specifically.
Yeah.
Did a really good job.
Although I had more fun with Brad Pitt, honestly enough. Although Leo did, I think, better acting. But I think they were both great. I think they're both going to get Oscar nominations. I mean, it's a Quentin film. It's Leo and it's Brad. They're going to get nominated, I think. So, but I love them both. If there's, we'll get into that. Maybe we can start off with spoilers if we want to go into this part. If there's any kind of a negative, and again, it's like, it's not.
I don't even know if it's a negative.
Yeah. What's the negative?
Oh wait, you go ahead. Maybe we're not thinking about the same thing.
No, I'm not thinking about that.
Okay.
I'm just trying. When I mean negative, I'm trying to come up with the closest thing about the film that I like the least. And I'm still kind of wondering, again, maybe I shouldn't be focusing what the point of it was, because a lot of these things in this movie didn't have a point. But if I were to say something that I liked the least about the film, it was, I mean, it added to the atmosphere. I'm not saying it was useless. And maybe you can help me, like, work it out about the Margot Robbie. Sharon Tate, I guess, obviously. Why was she in this movie?
Why was she in the movie? I know, I was going to say.
Okay.
I feel like that's kind of spoilery.
Well, we can start, yeah. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like the only reason she was in the movie was to create tension for that third act. But again, I'm not a great director like Quentin Tarantino. I'm not anything close to that. But I kind of feel like you kind of gotten the same added effect if at the beginning of the film you just get a faraway shot like, oh yeah, she lives next door.
Right. And
then you don't see her again until the very end with the buzzer. And then it's like, oh, she invited him in. And, you know, all of that. Like, honestly, I think that maybe would have worked better. But again, who am I to fucking...
It's like a lot of this movie, Margot Robbie and whatever she has going on is entirely isolated from what Brad and with Leo have
But
going
also,
on.
it's just nothing.
Yeah. Like what you described that scene.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a point where, like, in the... I swear, like, in the beginning of the film, I've had to have seen her and Roman Polanski drive up to the house, like, 50 times. And then they drive to a party, and then Steve McQueen is explaining the dynamics between Polanski and Sharon Tate and the other guy.
I don't know who that was.
I don't know who it was. And it's like, okay, why? This has no bearing on the rest of the film. It just doesn't. Like, it's...
No, it really... It's...
I thought, like, okay, they're setting something up.
Yeah.
Because, by the way, there's several things in the beginning that Tarantino does set up. The cigarette, the dog, and how... trained it is. Rick Dalton starring in that World War II film. Like, there's a lot of shit.
Cliff's whole thing.
Yeah. Like, there's so much that he sets up that, like... You're like, okay, where's this going? And then, boop, it comes all together in the third act. Well, God, I don't want to talk about that. But we'll get to it right now.
Yeah.
But then with Sharon Tate, it's just kind of showing her. I don't get it. Like, we just saw the film.
Yeah.
We just saw the film. So
that's what I'm walking away with, and I think looks like you are too. And it's like, is that a negative per se, or is that just like wondering
if...
The scenes weren't bad.
They weren't bad, but also they just were nothing.
They did nothing. Right.
They really did. Honestly, they kind of did.
So if it does nothing, doesn't then take away from the movie?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because that's time.
Dead weight.
Most of the film is her going to see the film she's in. And it's like, okay. And the beginning of the film is just seeing her drive around and go to parties. And then towards the end, showing her pregnant. Like, I'm sorry. At this point, I don't see a point to her in the film at all. I actually think it probably would have worked better if you cut those out. Have her in the beginning, and just be like, oh,
I'm just trying to figure out what did she bring to the movie? And I mean, not as far as an acting, she was great as an actress. She always is. But even if you're gonna say, well, she was kind of, sort of, important to the end, I don't see it. And it kind of wasn't, really.
No.
She's there. I think it's the definition of just being there. I feel like
the ending might have been more impactful if you didn't see her till the end. You know, you caught a glimpse of her in the beginning.
Right, yeah.
And then it's just them, and then, you know, you hear her voice over the intercom, and then you see
her.
I feel like that might have been more impactful overall. Especially because the main drive of this really is Rick Dalton and Cliff. Like,
right.
So, I don't know, again, I could be completely convinced otherwise. Like, we literally just saw it, but as of right now,
I can't think of anything.
I can't think of it, you know.
Right. Okay, so I was just wondering that myself. Let's get to Cliff, and let's get to also Rick Dalton.
Okay.
Loved it. Everything with Rick Dalton.
Rick Dalton was great.
Yeah, loved it. Leo really flexing his muscles.
He's maybe my favorite Leo
performance.
One of my favorite performances. I actually really liked it.
I think this is my favorite Leo performance in Wolf of Wall Street for sure.
Yeah.
No offense to his performance in Revenant. I think it was a great performance. Didn't care for the movie overall. Great film.
I liked the movie, but also his performance I thought was not weak, but it was just okay.
It's a Leo performance.
I felt they gave him that Oscar because it was his time.
Well, I mean,
I would have preferred he got the Oscar for this.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Oscars earlier, but I do want to make sure that the point is reinforced. Oscars don't mean anything whatsoever.
Not really.
They're a body of misguided elites. But then again, that's America.
You sound like a dirty hippie, and there's one thing that Quentin Tarantino hates is hippie.
Clearly on this movie.
He likes their feet. But
we'll get to the hippies. Let's stick on Rick Dalton. Honestly, some of my favorite scenes of the movie were him and that new character he was doing, and then the dynamic that he had with the little girl.
Yeah, like there's this whole I don't know if you would call it a subplot of him just it's kind of the whole movie. I don't know of just him filming on the set of the show. He's playing.
Is it a show or is it a film? I think it's a film, isn't it?
It was a show. It was a pilot because they were talking about pilot season.
Gotcha. Okay.
What did they call him? The Heavy. Playing the Heavy. I assume with lingo for bad guy. And everything with that was hilarious to go from like, I don't know if I want to do this, to like embarrassing himself, like you're Rick fucking Dalton, to like nailing it at the end, and then, like his dynamic with the little girl. Like it has its own little arc.
It's satisfying, I felt, especially because there's just some powerhouse acting going on there. But it's also, again, what you mentioned, the situation of Rick Dalton in this movie is, of course, the fear of being a has-been. But I think there is a certain amount of satisfaction, also kind of emotionally in there too, how he still got it. Especially how he really blows that scene away. Especially that scene where he has the little girl in his arms. And he's the whole threatening scene when he throws her on the ground. Great stuff.
The whole thing with the little girl.
Yeah, it was good.
I think all that's funny.
Yeah. You didn't seem to... You weren't as hot, it would seem, on Brad Pitt.
Well, he was doing his McConaughey impression. Not the, like, voice, but just, the laid-back, smooth... It's very
McConaughey-ish.
Brad Pitt. It's sort of like if what's his name? Ryan Gosling played a stoic character.
Really? I never would have imagined Ryan Gosling. And by the way, he crushes it every time. Unlike some people who are not sophisticated in nature, who like to criticize him. And I met him and I met her too.
I did not follow that, but someone did. Okay.
They wouldn't. No, but he was great, though. I mean, I haven't... Look, I mean, I can't think to...
I thought it was great, too. But also, I think his story... I don't know if you can even say story. Was less...
Interesting.
Not only less interesting, but it didn't much lead anywhere as well, kind of. Maybe.
Well,
I don't.
Very end, right?
But even then, I don't know if it really mattered. Okay. But like,
so like the thing,
like
with
I said,
him,
with like Rick Dalton, like that's his whole thing. That's his character feeling like a has been, and it's a little arc feeling good on.
There's things going on there, but in this one with Cliff, who's portrayed by Brad Pitt, that we're talking about here, it's so. Yeah, I mean, he's a very easygoing, laid-back driver, stuntman for Leo's character, Rick Dalton.
There's that fun thing with him and Bruce Lee.
That was great.
Which again, it's like,
what was the point?
I don't
really care. But it was great.
That one I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. But then they add in, kind of out of nowhere, but I think it's pretty clear where that was going to lead to. This element of him, I guess, killing his wife. Or killing his wife?
I don't think that was meant to go anywhere or be anything. It was just showing you an extra layer to him as a character, I think.
I feel that was kind of there to tell you how it would have ended the confrontation that happened in the end of the movie. I think maybe if I were to
I think it's like he's a laid back kind of slacker loser dude. Yeah. But there's more underneath, so to speak. So yeah. But I did enjoy this. Like I said, I was entertained throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
So.
Al Pacino.
It's fucking Al Pacino. Great. He's great.
Yeah.
Cappuccino. What was it?
Cappuccino. And what? In Jack and Jill?
Yeah. Was it Cappuccino? Was that the thing?
That's Kyle's favorite performance of Al Pacino.
I know. It's his best.
Yeah. Should have won a what was it called? Razzie for that?
I think that film did get nominated. I don't know about him specifically. Let's talk about the third act.
Wait, one thing before we get there, because this also leads up to it. One of the movies that Rick Dalton is like known for is where there's literally a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio gets a flamethrower and burns Nazis.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
How can you say no to burning Nazis?
Well, you ask somebody in the White House. Yeah. I think that was pretty clear. What?
Yeah.
There was another jab. Oh yeah, that wasn't Zombieland. Sorry, that was something else. That was something else. But yeah, that flamethrower came back. So the third act happens after all the movie has happened.
By the way, the whole film is very clearly building towards
something.
No, the Manson murders. From the very beginning, you do not introduce Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate,
right,
and weird fucking hippies, and not.
Can we have a timeout?
Get there.
Okay, so there's a lot of similarities, not in terms of how the movie is executed, but a lot of themes from Bad Times at the El Royale of this movie.
Well, I don't even know if this film has themes.
No, I mean, but there's maybe coincidences. I don't know what the word would be chalked up to, but I mean, that film had very overt Manson murder homage.
Well, this is literally the Manson. Like, he didn't do any like Manson adjacent.
Right.
This one is full on Manson, and I think that's just whenever people try to encapsulate that time period.
Right.
Those murders had such a profound impact.
Yeah.
On that time period.
Right.
That it's the same thing with, like, I don't know, landing on the moon. You know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You're talking about the 1960s.
All
that's
60s,
the kind
yeah,
of shit
yeah.
that pops up.
Right.
Yeah. Watching the third act, when it started to happen, I felt like that scene in Arrested Development where it's the brown bag and it says "dead dove" inside, don't eat, and I open it and I go, I don't know what I expected. It's Quentin Tarantino, man.
I mean,
it's literally
everything you expect in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
It's a revenge fantasy. That entire third act is a revenge fantasy. That's another possibility why this film was made. Like, he got drunk one night and he's like, fuck you, Manson, and he wrote some shit and he's like, oh, God, I need to write a film around it. And then, because holy shit, like, for 90% of the film, it's very laid back, subdued, you know, slow, just taking in LA and all this. And then in the third act, it's a fucking horror show in which
Grindhouse.
It becomes Grindhouse, in which Cliff just fucking annihilates.
And I mean annihilates.
And they show you.
Oh, yeah.
They relish in it. You can tell they loved this.
They worked for that rated R rating, I'll tell you that.
Murdered 2 of the Manson murderers. Well, in this version, they're not the murderers. And then fucking Dalton brings out a flamethrower to finish off the third. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth between a lot of people about that third act.
No, there already has been, from what I've been reading. Not that I know what it was, but from what I've been, obviously film Twitter has been blowing up, going back and forth between whether or not that third act ruined the movie or made the movie.
Because it becomes a completely different film.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say I loved it. Like, I don't care.
No, look. That third act was electric.
Yeah.
It was electric, and it's everything I want in a Tarantino movie, and maybe it meant more that he really made us wait for it. Like, up until, like, the what was it called? The 9th inning there. Literally. In this sense. And it comes together, and it blows up. It's like the definition of a perfect, and I mean perfect, 4th of July fireworks spectacular. That's what it was. And I'm sorry. I just had a big smile on my face throughout the entirety because, like, you see it coming, and I'm like, okay, I know where this is going now, and I'm thinking, oh shit, like, I thought the ones that were gonna get annihilated were like Rick Dalton and Cliff.
Yeah, I thought that it's like, oh, this is
they're
like
outnumbered, right?
I thought this is like because like basically all of what's his name? Quentin Tarantino's films are like take place in an alternate universe, like Inglourious Basterds. Obviously, didn't happen that way. And there's little clues throughout all of his films where it's like this is a different universe in which revenge is, beautiful. And so I was like,
surprised Taylor Swift's not in one of his movies yet.
So I knew it wasn't just going to be the straight up show the murders and then that's it. So I thought, oh, maybe Rick Dalton, they get killed instead, but then...
Because I was confused. I knew they were going to stumble on there, but because the Manson hippie kids that were sent, they were sent by somebody else to kill Sharon Tate, right?
Yeah.
And they walked into Rick Dalton's house by accident.
Well, Rick Dalton walked outside. Yeah, and then he messed with him. Well, that's the point
he wasn't
where
the target,
history
right?
changes.
Right.
No. That's when they change their mind and say, "Oh, we'll attack him because he's a TV star. Fuck the man, fascists." You don't like hippies, Quentin Tarantino. But yeah, that's at the point where it's like, okay, this is where history changed,
right?
But then, man, oh man. They fucking tear up those three.
Well, it's like they walk in there, and my mind's thinking, okay, how is this going to go down? And Cliff doesn't flinch, and the thing.
Well, he is on acid.
That's the thing. Well, I mean, I get the feeling he wouldn't have flinched because he doesn't flinch at all in any instance in this movie, and I was like led to believe that because he was high on that acid dope, that he would be kind of impaired, and he wouldn't be on his game.
Yeah. You thought wrong.
I thought wrong, and I love the fact that I thought wrong because, I don't know, it made it so much sweeter that the dog was in on this, too. I love that dog.
That's a great dog.
Yeah.
That's a great dog. Holy shit.
No, these people were, the Manson kids who went in there with the intention of murdering innocent people. They weren't just murdered. They were ripped apart.
Yeah.
They were ripped apart.
And by the way, that's why the whole thing is played like a comedy.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because these were real murders. But they're like killing the murderers. And it's like, again, it's like full on Tarantino revenge fantasy at that point, like full on.
What was that thing?
More so even than Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah,
like
that's saying something.
I enjoyed it. I don't know. It's like that scene in Kingsman in the church. I enjoyed it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So. Do you want to talk overall? Or?
Well, I mean, I still want a little relish in that third act, though, because I feel really that third act made the movie for me. I was liking it, but I think I really loved the movie now after because of what happened there and what ended up being. And of course, it made me laugh so much when the little girl, not the little girl, but when the girl that was, I think, she broke through the glass and jumped in the pool, and Leo was like, "What the fuck?"
But I like how he doesn't even question. He runs to the shed and comes back with a flamethrower. That's when I was like, I'm done. This is fucking hilarious. And then just sets her on fire, and you see her burned corpse and everything. Like I said, the film relishes.
Oh yeah,
in their demise and their torturous demise.
Let's talk about that switcheroo then. Well, not switcheroo, but this third act, as we just said, will make the movie or break the movie for you.
Yeah,
I think it made it for us. I loved it, and I think for me,
I can already think of some people where it's like that third act ruined the film.
Let me. Okay, let's talk about that. let's try and see the contrarian view. Where do you think they're coming from in terms of that?
Well, I totally think it's like because it doesn't fit in with the tone or really anything that the film was doing previously.
Right.
Like it really does become a completely different film.
There were a little bit. There was hints, especially.
Well, that's why it works for me.
Yeah.
And I like seeing those fuckers get messed up. No.
Believe me. Yes, I'm there with you too. That's why I was like, yes. If anybody should be murdered that way, in a movie.
In a movie.
Let me clear that. In a movie, it's people like that. It was the murderers who end up getting murdered.
Yeah, that's real life murders, and it's a fake movie murder. So yeah, I don't feel that. I don't feel bad at all.
Yeah,
I relish it. But also mainly because the film was. It feels like it was just more about relaxed, fun,
atmospheric.
Like it didn't take itself that seriously. It wasn't trying to be anything. Like the film was trying to be more serious, and it was going for something, trying to say something.
And in so much, you were right about what you said earlier. How it very much is Quentin at his most restrained. Because you wouldn't know it was his movie until like, or it doesn't have his usual grindhouse shit, as you say.
But if it was meant to be a less fun movie and then that third act happened, I could see myself having a problem with it. But because it's a more laid back, fun movie, might be his most humorous film, and then that third act just explodes, you know?
A lot of his movies are pretty humorous.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not the focal point.
Right.
You know, with this one, you see it a lot more, I feel.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of his films. I can think of maybe every single one of his films where he's really good at tension, where it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and it is like a serious payoff. I don't think this film ever had that. They like the closest, like they subverted that several times. Like when they went to the fucking all the hippies were at.
Yeah,
and it's like this long, drawn out, tension filled to find George or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, George is in there. They weren't lying. Everything, like it was humorous.
Right.
The cutting of the tension, and even in this one,
although again that was leading into something else.
And then even in this one, the tension to lead up to that third act, like because I know what actually happened, and this is fucking Quentin Tarantino, so I don't know what he's gonna do. That might make me uneasy. So I'm kind of sitting on pins and needles, and they really build up that third act.
Right.
Like at 11:45. They did. But then when they finally break the tension, it's a joke. It's hilarious. So, yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah.
It worked for me. I totally understand if it didn't work for others.
No, I think it worked for me so much so that, look, overall, I don't think I might be as positive as I were right now if it weren't for that. Not saying that the movie wasn't working for me before, but it worked so much better with that third act.
Yeah, and I will say I still felt the film was a little bloated.
Yeah.
Especially with the
duration,
scenes.
The duration of the film. I felt its length, honestly.
Yeah. I felt you could have probably cut it down a little bit.
Now, so I think the question is, well, when are we going to get the Netflix miniseries, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Because, I mean, to be fair, haven't the most recent Tarantino films been longer than usual? Or are they all pretty much like
I know The Hateful Eight was long.
Yeah.
Shit. How long was this one? Was it like 2.5?
I want to say 2.5, right?
I don't think it approached 3.
No.
Was that a 2.5? That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's usually, and I think Django was like 3 hours or even.
But again,
more
it's more about how you feel in the movie, and this did feel longer.
Yeah, because like I said, there's so many scenes of just like people getting out, walking to a car.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that did add to the atmosphere.
Right.
But then also the Sharon Tate scenes, where it's like, I don't know if these are necessary.
We were hearing that the ending of the movie was changed. right?
Really?
No, I was hearing some people that were saying that the film was screened at a festival, and wasn't there some kind of a controversy with the original ending of Margot Robbie's character, and then something was changed at the last minute?
I don't know.
We need to read more about that for the podcast.
I will read into that.
Yeah,
because I'm very interested.
Because I've heard things about that, how it was changed. Okay. And then I don't know, because there was like a very confrontational press conference that Tarantino had with reporters after the film was screened.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This whole thing happened a few months ago.
Confrontational, like.
Well, he was not having a good time.
Well, like, were they asking him like?
They were asking questions about. I guess they're asking questions about. I think maybe the lingering thoughts about the relationship with Weinstein.
Oh, maybe yeah.
I can't be too sure about that. We'll look more into it when we do the actual podcast review for Red Spotlight. Catch it on every Sunday, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have the full breakdown and review of that movie, because it's very interesting also to figure that one out. One additional component I want to say is, how do you think our audience liked this movie?
They liked the third act.
Pretty quiet.
As the film was quiet, it's you usually get a quieter movie theater when you don't have much people in the movie theater. There wasn't a lot of people. It was rather quiet. I don't know. It's hard to tell. A lot of older people. I would say that as well. A lot of older people. I enjoyed it. I don't care what everyone else. I don't care about what they have to say.
Well, I just want to take into consideration, we hated last week's movie.
Yeah,
but the
audience loved it. Yeah, but with this, like, I feel like no one goes to these films unless you see them at a festival. Yeah. Like, regular moviegoers don't watch these kind of movies and then applaud at the end.
No, and again, I'm not looking for applause. I'm just I'm looking for little tidbits here as to how general audiences would have took this movie. And
I will say, as a whole, it might be a little slow for them.
I think it's very slow for them.
Probably.
Honestly, there's a lot of stuff in here that I think would be very grating on general audiences. And look, this is not to be judgmental, but just looking at the math and seeing what they like. When you have the top 6 grossing movies of this year all being Disney movies, and they all have a particular palette in terms of how the film is paced and what you see and what you don't see in comparison to what you see here, maybe this is why. Although this was expected to be Tarantino's highest opening movie of all time, so we'll see it is. I mean, there's big Hollywood stars in this.
Did they tell everyone it was a Disney film? Is that why it's going to make a lot of money?
The weirdest thing is there was a trailer for a Disney movie in this. The Rise of Skywalker trailer was so random.
Yeah, that was weird. By the way, I feel like there's a lot of films about, like, ladies being like,
yeah,
we own this now.
We had 2 of them play back to back.
Hustlers and
that Melissa McCarthy movie.
Melissa with the Streets.
With Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah. And, well, I think it's because they played both
back to back. No, it felt
and
like
it felt like the same movie, except one was with the mob and the other one was with strippers. And I was like, ooh, this kind of feels similar.
No, it felt the same. Like, okay, you're really making this exact same movie again. And there's also a show about that on, I think, TNT.
Of the both, I think the Hustler one looked more interesting to me. Of the both.
It had JLo in it, and she's usually in trash. So I usually just eliminate that.
How dare you?
No, it's the truth.
That is JLo.
Jennifer Lopez is a national treasure.
Okay, there you go.
But the films that she's in are usually trash.
Alright. I'm just saying from the trailers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she looked amazing in the trailer.
Talk about the movie.
Okay, it didn't look good.
I mean, I'm probably not going to watch it just
I know because... you will for sure watch the Melissa McCarthy one because you get...
Really?
Don't you get dragged to see every Melissa McCarthy movie?
Every comedy. I don't think this was a comedy.
Did you not see Can You Forgive Me? Can You Ever Forgive Me?
No.
It's a good film.
Oh, was it?
She was great. Okay. So was Richard E. Grant, who will be in Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker, yes. We won't be doing a review on that film, by the way. We're officially boycotting all Disney films.
Which means we're going out of business.
We're going to business.
Because
we're closing down the Fantasy Fair.
Oh. I didn't say that, just to be clear.
I did. Just to be clear.
Overall, I really like this movie. Mm-hmm. Love the third act. I do think, though, if there's one thing we can agree on is like what weighed the movie down was everything with Margot Robbie. Only because it kind of was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. It was a bit lengthy. Not lengthy. It felt lengthy.
But it was entertaining and a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So the pace,
yeah,
I would say was kind of off. But overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think we're in complete agreement.
Yes.
Doesn't that scare you?
Yeah. No.
Go see the film.
Mm-hmm.
See it, try it out. But I just want to say, of the Quentin films that I have seen, so there's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Hateful Eight, Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, and Pulp Fiction. I like every one of his films. Like, he's never given me a film where I was like, oh, this is like not working for me and not good. Yeah. My least favorite would be Hateful Eight of the bunch that I've seen, but it's a very good film.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just depends if it worked for you or not.
He has an amazing track record.
I still really love, though, Bad Times at the El Royale. I know it was mentioned here and there, but like if people are only just catching it now, I'd recommend that film.
Yeah, go check it
out. Drew Goddard's an amazing writer and director. There's a great cast in there too. I think for me it was a better film when comparing it to this one and to Hateful Eight. So go check it out. And check out this movie. Pay money to go sit in a theater while it lasts, because and maybe that's why he's retiring, because like it ain't gonna be on much longer to go see this movie in a theater. So those are our final thoughts. Catch our full review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on Red Spotlight for our podcast every single Sunday. Also catch Kyle's Fantasy Fair podcast. He has a lot of Lion King coverage. And as I've said, if I hear the Circle of Life play one more time, especially that first few notes, I think I will die. Quickly, before we go, what's the next movie we're going to go see?
No clue.
It ain't going to be Hobbs and Shaw?
No.
Hobbs and Shaw opens next week?
No. It's
Sorry,
going to
guys.
make a shit ton of money either.
Yeah. No. Check out It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Is that what it's called? Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? The trailer. That's Tom Hanks. It'll do something for you. Bye.